Hi, everyone. It's Joe Veneri, the host of Fitt Insider, the show where I talk with the entrepreneurs, executives, and investors who are redefining the business of fitness and wellness. Today, I'm joined by Daniel Sobhani, CEO of Freeletics, an AI-powered fitness app. In this episode, we discuss the company's evolution from a PDF workout plan to a digital fitness platform with more than 50 million users. We cover the launch of Staedium, the company's new game-based connected strength training product, and Daniel shares his thoughts on innovation, team building, gamification, and more. Before today's episode, I wanted to share some updates to the Fitt Insider platform. As you might know, in addition to this podcast, we send a weekly newsletter to help operators stay informed and make better decisions. We also launched an industry-specific jobs board filled with hundreds of openings at top companies, and we're actively investing in early-stage health and fitness startups. To see what's new or to get in touch, visit insider.fit.co. Hi, Daniel. Welcome to Fitt Insider. Thanks for joining us.
Joe, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Very much looking forward to this conversation. I know it's been a while in the making. We've been trying to get it done, so I'm glad that we were able to today. And just kicking things off, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Freeletics?
Of course, sure. So I'm Daniel Sobhani, the CEO of Freeletics. We started the company bootstrapped 2013 in Munich, Germany, with the vision to challenge and inspire people to become the greatest version of themselves. So go beyond physical transformation of people, although that's important for people, but we really feel we have accomplished our goal when people walk more upright. They radiate self-confidence. They're an inspiration to others. And when we started the company, we had that feeling that the fitness industry was, and partially is, still that vicious cycle of false promises and wrong expectations and shallow solutions that lead to failure of people and going through that cycle over and over again. And so we wanted to change that. And we do that with an authentic enthusiast brand approach where we offer AI-powered personalized coaching to people, as well as fully gamified strength training. And by now, we're happy to say that Freeletics is the leading European connected fitness platform with more than 500,000 of subscribers.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible to think about going from, basically body weight workouts. I know selling PDFs, right? Just workout plans that people could download, to growing that into the digital platform, then integrating AI, continuing to raise funding and scale that platform. And you mentioned it, what is it, 50 million some users now, as you continue to work towards that goal of, helping people achieve their best, whatever that might be. When you think about, obviously that evolution is probably crazy. And when you step back and even tell that story, but maintaining that we want to help people achieve these health and fitness goals, but to do it in a way where it is not just another fad or another trend. As you were evolving the product, and even still today, like, how do you maintain like the balance between, hey, yeah, you might want to look good, you might want to hit PRs in the gym, but also it's beyond that. Like, what thought process goes into that, and how do you kind of get that into the company and into the product?
Yeah, I think so. The key point is, where does the user start? Does the user already start in a mindset where the user has understood that getting to the quickest physical goals possible might be counterproductive, not helpful for building a long-term healthy habit? Or is that user at a state where, without these physical results that I want to have, I will drop, my motivation is going to drop, and I'm going to churn out immediately. So trying to figure that out is very important. Generally speaking, you need to give users a minimum of what they're looking for early enough in the journey to give them that some sort of a positive feedback sign from what they're doing, but then try to educate them, give them this mindset, connect them with people who already have that mindset of this more long-term journey. I think generally speaking, the best thing, in my opinion, would be if we could get this feeling of fitness as a medicine out of people. So you take it because you want to get to something, but you actually don't enjoy taking the medicine, to something that you enjoy. And I don't want to jump too much here in topics, but that was also the reason for Staedium and strength gaming. Like, I mean, imagine if if a youth of 15 years or something like that would get the same street cred and cred in school, for being great in fitness gaming as they get now with, playing FIFA or Fortnite.
For sure. I think that aspect, like, to me, it's something that I admittedly have struggled to wrap my head around a little bit, because I have been someone that, I grew up as an athlete. And so the exercise was kind of just part of my life. And it was always kind of very natural. And I found it to be an escape, and I was very disciplined. So, to go to the gym was just it became part of who I was. And you think of like that type of person, and that's one of so many different kind of cohorts or demographics and the types of people who want to be healthy. And for so long, the fitness industry has kind of been that you're an athlete, you're aspiring to be competitive, or you want to work out to look like a bodybuilder or to achieve some type of aesthetic goal. But now we hear so much more about the entertainment factor, right? Make it fun, the motivation, what is getting people, whether it's community or otherwise. And you talked a little bit about gaming and strength playing a factor in that. So I just think it's so important to kind of evolve that to get to more people. We will circle back to Staedium and the strength training.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask you, given that Freeletics, the app and platform, has been so much around the AI, right? The artificial intelligence powering the coach. But now it feels like as the tech is starting to evolve, it's almost becoming kind of table stakes, right? For any type of company, fitness company, certainly, where you have AI and machine learning and computer vision. How do you continue to evolve that tech in the platform to say, this is how we're leveraging, continue to leverage technology to bring value for the users?
Yeah. So let me answer this in two parts. So the first one is, I agree that generally using the technology becomes more and more table stakes, at least for those companies who, quote unquote, are leading within these industries. However, at the same time, it's, for me, using that, having that technology is not the key point. It is about how do you use it, how do you train it. So to give you an example around our AI-powered coaching, so what we do on a very simplified level is we have now more than 300 million workouts done on our platform. So we leverage that data. By now, that algorithm is not choosing a workout, but it can create a workout. And so there are almost 70 million different reasonable combinations that the algorithm could create. And we have achieved that within that second where you request for that workout, the algorithm delivers you by now one that comes at a 90% perfection rate. So we ask our users, how did you like the workout afterwards, from terrible, change something, to absolutely perfect, brilliant. And when we started that programming, we were at 40%, which is, I think, also a reasonable estimate of what your average, fitness plan or training plan that's not really personalized is going to deliver. And now we're at 90%. And without that extensive data behind that and training the algorithm to that, you wouldn't get to that place. So, how you use that technology is super important. Also on computer vision, motion tracking, repetition counting is not new. Like there are tons of people who do repetition counting or who can do it. But what's extremely difficult is to use that technology and repetition counting in a way that the user appreciates it, because very, very often if you do traditional repetition counting, it's a very frustrating experience because it's a binary outcome, 0, 1, did I do a repetition or not? And hey, the hell, now why didn't it count my repetition, and what am I supposed to do to get there? So, just to that intro, yes, using the technology is table stakes, but how it's working, how you train it, that's very difficult. How we evolve this, well, I think there are specific things within the products, how you can evolve it, but most systematically, the two most important things and most differentiating things, in my opinion, are, one is you have to find a way how your scale gives you an advantage. Because that's the one thing that you're building. If you're continuing to have users on your platform, this is the one major advantage that you have over a new app, new product. So that's one. And two is, I see very much the future of every big fitness company, but I see the future as moving into platforms where you provide holistic type of training, but also very different type of training experience. Because just the reality is that users want to do different things. Nobody just sticks with one thing forever. On average, people use 2.5, different fitness offerings. The industry, so the providers, the companies so far were this single product offerings, but the user would want to have an integrated one. So how do you evolve this in building that platform out and making sure that 1 + 1 = 3 or 4 on that platform?
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And to your point around both the scale and how you're training this technology and then leveraging it within that broader kind of platform and offering different modalities, I think that's a great segue to maybe talk about Staedium specifically. And for folks who don't know, just in the past couple of days, and when this comes out, maybe a couple of weeks, you entered the connected fitness space with a strength gaming product. Can you just talk about the motivations there, how you got to that point? And for folks who don't know, maybe just a little bit about what it is.
Of course, super happy to do that. We're very excited about it. So let me start with why and then what we're doing, because that connects very well. When COVID hit last year, we had a major inflow of new user groups, new types of users on the platform. And a very big user group were those who originally had worked out at the gym or just generally do strength training. So we took that opportunity to learn from that users. And what we figured out was, a super simple revelation, both for those users who have an ongoing strength training habit, but also those who aspire to get one, is that 87% of those users would love to have greater fun, greater excitement in their strength training. Because even if they love strength training, they more love what it does to them. The discipline of having mastered the workout, the energy afterwards, the results that you see, but the actual process is kind of mundane. You go to the gym, you do 10 repetitions, you put the weight back, you set your timer to 2 minutes, then you sit on a bench, you browse your phone in between, and then you get up and do that cycle again 30, 40 times. So at its heart, the actual experience of strength training seemed to be rather repetitive and mundane. And this is what we are changing. We're turning strength training into strength gaming, what we call Staedium. And so Staedium runs on a set of connected equipment. You have a smart camera, you have connected dumbbells, you have an integrated bench, and you have a design storage solution that fits all that equipment and makes it living room ready. And that allows us to use technology that enables us to know the weight that you're lifting, at what speed and at what acceleration, to track your exercises, count your repetitions, score your range of motion, and provide real-time feedback on that. And these input, all of that input data that seamlessly comes, that allows us to create strength games that you play. These strength games are a proper workout, but they're focused on making that experience as fun, as exciting, as gamified as possible, with single player, with multiplayer modalities, competing, collaborating, all of these things.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. And when I kind of got word that it was in the works, maybe would be launching, and then started to see the teasers that were getting put out on social media and then via email and the product eventually launching. I think it combines two things that we've seen so much of, the kind of early stages of, at least at this point, with strength training becoming more of a focal point, right? To this point, it was, even when you think about fitness and then at-home fitness, connected fitness, it's been about group fitness or instructor-led classes, kind of that typical, group X experience. And then we started to see, obviously, the innovations around cardio equipment, right? The bikes with the screens and now treadmills. But until maybe the last couple years, there wasn't an emphasis around strength training in the same way that there had been with these other modalities beyond, get a traditional squat rack and dumbbells and do that at home if you're going to. Yeah. And then the gaming piece, where it was, how do we take, esports and video games, which has always been incredibly popular as a form of entertainment or a hobby, or, now competitions where people make millions of dollars playing games, and infuse that into the fitness world. You mentioned like the motivation, starting to see within COVID these trends, and then maybe surveying the users. Was this intention to enter home fitness or gaming, or that maybe even that combination, already on the roadmap, or was it really accelerated by the pandemic and say, hey, this is the moment, let's strike while the iron is hot?
So, well, actually, neither nor. I mean, it wasn't really on our roadmap let's say going into COVID, if we want to call it like that. This was a topic that we were always contemplating and passionate about. And I think we just needed a trigger to really say, okay, now let's tackle that topic. Because I mean, from an ideal timing standpoint, we would have been a year earlier.
Yeah.
No question about that. From an ideal timing standpoint, well, we just felt this is a problem to solve that's really worth solving. Technological advancements now make it possible to solve it, and we committed to it and went straight into.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that because it was maybe this time last year you raised an additional round of funding, and was the thought process then let's take on that funding to just continue to grow the core platform, the Freeletics app? Or even at that point, was it like, hey, let's take on this funding and then we're going to pursue these other kind of avenues, whether it's at home or something else?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was the first. It was, we took on the funding for the core app, and then we came to the conclusion we actually want to do that strength gaming on top, which turned out or forced us basically to be extremely efficient about how we work on Staedium, both in terms of the time that we allow us to get to the market, as well as how much capital we can put into it.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing, when you look at the launch of it, you kind of talked before when we were talking about the technology and AI and continuing to develop kind of new offerings, right, or modalities for that existing user who is already using a couple different, whether it's platforms or options to just keep their workout routine interesting and add variety. What was the thought process behind launching the separate brand? So why not a Freeletics branded, right, kind of at-home experience? Why the new brand in Staedium? And kind of with that, loaded question here, is there plans to continue to add other brands within that umbrella as you look at new modalities and equipment potentially?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the most debated parts of Staedium within Freeletics, and there were massive pros and cons for both approaches. In the end, we decided to have a more standalone brand for two major reasons. The one is the use case for Staedium and the feeling that we want to provide for Staedium is a different one than with the coach. So the coach is targeted towards, you have a goal, what's the most efficient way to get to that goal? Help me achieve that goal. Staedium's purpose is, I want to work out. And physical results are part of that motivation, but actually it's more like, can we get working out close towards the feeling of a sport? So I do it partially because I want to be fit and healthy, but there is so much more going on. It's fun, it's exciting. Every time I move into a playing field, it feels different. It's social and all that stuff. So the use case is a very different one, and the feeling is a very different one that we want to portray with that. So that was one thing. The other thing is that while the target groups have overlaps between these two use cases, they're not identical. And therefore, in the end, we decided to launch with a brand that has a different feeling, looks very different, is very loud, very edgy, very high energy, but ultimately combine it on one platform and let people choose what of the experiences they want to have on any given day.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to see that evolve, and as it plays out, just that point around the branding and it being different. I think one thing that anybody that looks at it across the landscape, most fitness brands are that kind of black and red and, kind of intense in a way, but very much I think of like associating, to your point, around like the coach or training or maybe competition. I don't know what it says to different people, but those are kind of the things that it says to me. Whereas even in some of the website, the initial branding that's come out around Staedium, it is very different in a good way that stands out in that landscape. And I think speaks to whether the intention was it for it to speak to a younger audience or it feels more someone who for lack of a better term, is like already oriented around this world of whether it's gaming or entertainment, certainly like a social media first type of user, all of those things. What went into that brand, and then what were some of the hopes in terms of, who that branding would speak to? Am I kind of close to it? Was that part of the thought process, or was it like entirely different and it's saying something totally different to me?
No, I was thinking whether I should write that down because it fits the thinking so well. To summarize it, it was with where we are now, Staedium. We are targeting a very early an early adopter group that is already present within the strength gaming space, but that is very open-minded to new types of experiences that are looking for this new thing in terms of excitement. How can I get this more social? How can I do this together with others? Or just how can I have a more playful yet effective feeling when I do that workout? And all of the attributes that you said, social media, having a feeling for the pulse of the time, all of these things are attributes to this early adopter target group. And the only other thing to add to this was that with the brand positioning, the team tried to portray the feeling that we want people afterwards. I'm energized. I'm pumped every time I enter that playing field. There was a different outcome. The game evolved different. The game evolved differently. So, as far away as possible from this, it's a medicine or a drill instructor.
Yeah, I think that comes through at this point in the branding and the approach. The other piece there that I'll be curious to see as it rolls out, and I think maybe in that as part of the benefit, right, of rolling out a product like this, and then the content and any challenges or whatever the games are, to learn from the users, right, and adapt quickly and kind of launch new things. But to the extent that you've developed them thus far, what has been the thinking in terms of the content, right? So when you think about gaming or the social aspect or the competition aspect has gone into that content, and how are you thinking about approaching that as it gets launched?
Let me try to explain it. It's obviously difficult in words because that's a one-dimensional thing that we can do here. But so the headline idea was to bring strength training closer to a sports experience. So in a sports experience, the rules are set. The playing field. But every time you enter that playing field, you come out with a different experience, and you can play every game very differently. You can make it ultra high paced. You can make it more relaxed and so on. So one of the other key points in this is that you play sports only partially for the reason of being fit and I don't know, building muscle or anything like that, but a lot for everything else that comes around it. The social interaction on the field, I have to adapt to new situations while I'm doing it. I'm feeling alive while I'm doing it. I can become better in something other than only being more faster and stronger. And so what we said is we don't give workouts, but we give strength games. So yes, they do give you a workout, but the idea is that within the framework of single player, multiplayer, collaboration games, competition games, and so on, you have different focuses. So a couple of examples. You will have your traditional race game where you are with a group of 8 or 10 people. There's a workout to be done. Who can get that done first? You can have one-on-one competition, one versus one competition with people. You will have team collaboration mode. So you have to master that workout. How do you distribute the tasks within that workout? Do you change these tasks in between? You will be able to explore worlds where in order to go somewhere, you have to do a certain small workout or a certain type of exercise. And within that, we've built a lot of gamification in. So again, to give an example, if we talk about the race game, there's gamification before the game and there's gamification during the game. Before the game, you have stuff like choosing your ace exercises. So those will count more, or you will have betting and forecasting. The closer you bet and forecast to the highest points, the more points you get. During the game, you have things like life challenges that get thrown to you. And so within that second, you have to decide, do I take that challenge? And if I achieve it, I double my points, or if I don't, I will fall to zero, stuff like that. And of course, leaderboards, but that's more like standard in gamification right now. So, this is probably the best way I can explain this now without showing something.
Yeah, no, I think you did a really great job of, kind of painting a picture, and the excitement and the kind of thinking that goes into that, again, so much different, right, than you think about traditional strength training as you described it before. You pick up a heavy thing, put it down, rest, pick up a heavy thing, put it down, do it again. So even having this offering out in the world, I think will kind of be transformative, both for the users who are on board with Staedium, but just in terms of continuing to evolve the industry is what, like I said, I'm most excited about as we see these things continue to push kind of the boundaries and traditional definition of what fitness and exercise is and why we do it, and maybe the types of people who would be interested in participating in it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost embarrassing if you think back, not even that long, 5 years, 10 years, how little technology was used within fitness. I mean, you literally digitalized a PDF plan, and that was considered a leading fitness app in the world, while there's amazing technology in all of the other sectors. So there's a lot of catching up that the fitness industry has to do.
Yeah, certainly. I think and still now sometimes you see it's like, to your point around counting reps or like measuring, like even the idea of like a workout log or like counting reps or monitoring like rest times, that being somehow like the foundation of a fitness app or a program. It's, it's evolved so much beyond that in so many other industries, right? When you think of like all the technological capabilities, and now starting to see that make its way into fitness is really incredible. With that, one thing that kind of popped to my mind, how have you approached kind of hiring that talent? Because it is not typically, when you think of like the fitness professional or someone who is working at a fitness company, right? It's very much around what the traditional definition of fitness was. Yeah. And now you talk about not only AI and all the kind of that the tech on that front, but the gamification, the content, the video production, the industrial engineering, right, that's going into the at-home products. We could probably have a whole conversation just on this, but in general, how have you thought about continuing to evolve the team to bring in folks who have this expertise?
That was such a rewarding experience, because with that vision of Staedium, we were able to attract very talented people who were very passionate about that vision and solving that problem. And so that was almost like you could call it a venture building exercise, or founding a new company. It is, okay, who are the one or two people at the very top that you fully trust and that are just exceptional and have a great understanding and feeling for what we do, and then bring in ideally T-shaped experts, but experts within the field of, as you, for example, said, game design. Like we had never done that before. Bring in experts in game design. How can we develop in a 3D engine? So we have to develop, parts of the experience in a 3D engine. Sound design. Then yes, in the industrial engineering, all the hardware. It's always fascinating to see what a motivated and committed group of highly talented individuals, people is able to do.
Yeah, it's impressive,
and it changes the company culture. It does change the company culture.
Well, yeah, there's so much to be said for that, because like anything else, it starts at the top. So not only your ability to push those limits and evolve from a PDF, right, to an app, and then an AI powered coach, and now hardware, setting that vision and getting people inspired about that says a lot about, the leadership that you've displayed with that. So just props on continuing to push those boundaries and get people on board with that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
As we get to the end of the conversation here, and kind of taking that evolution, right, a lot of the things we talked about to this point, and maybe looking ahead a little bit, I asked this as part of another question before that I kind of snuck in there, so just wanted to circle back to it. Are there plans as you think about continuing to evolve the brands and the platform to launch other offerings, whether it's under Freeletics or as standalone brands as you continue down this path? Or is it, we're going to see how Staedium does and gets out there, and then we'll make the decision based on that?
So first of all, now that we've launched Staedium, getting this to proper product market fit will be a key focus, and also very successful with the coach product, growing our user base and average engagement has 2.5x here. So we will be very much focused on also getting that coach product to the next level again. But definitely in the future, we will launch additional services. I stand very firm on my opinion that the future of fitness is not one individual solution that is then quote unquote the best out there in the market or the best for every person, but people are different and they have different expectations over time. And in order to give them the best possible experience, you will have to have different products that play well together. And so, yes, we will definitely launch a new thing, even independent of the performance and the results that we will have with Staedium, because in a portfolio building approach, you will have good, great, awesome, and bad results in that. Well, with Staedium particularly, I'm certain it will be at least a good result, but generally speaking, individual results cannot take you away from the overall vision and approach.
Yeah, it'll be certainly fascinating to watch. It's something that I continue to think about as I look across the landscape, especially for a company you started in 2012, 2013. Is that about
2013,
right?
2013, yeah.
And
2013.
And thinking about what is the roadmap to continue to engage users, to adapt to new technologies, to enter new markets, to expand, right? To some extent, like, not only the experience in the engagement, but that addressable market. So I think that evolution has been interesting to watch, and we'll certainly be following along as you continue to both perfect and hone the things that you've launched to this point, but potentially introduce new things down the road. And I think with that may be a good place to wrap up, in that for anyone who's interested in the things that we talked about here today, maybe checking out Staedium or following along potentially in the future with other new developments, where would you point them? What's the best way to learn more or give some of the product a try?
Yeah, so freeletics.com is always a great place to start. Staedium.com would be more specific around our strength gaming offering. Would be great if your listeners check it out. Always glad to get feedback on these things. We're out there to learn. We're actually using a community-driven development approach right now. So those people who are pre-ordering Staedium are integrated into some of the finalization of games and so on and so forth. So please reach out. Always happy to hear.
Fantastic. I definitely encourage people to do that. And Daniel, thanks so much for making time today. Really excited about the conversation.
Joe, it was such a pleasure, so much fun. I should have done this much earlier. Thank you for being patient with me.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do it again sometime. We'll follow along and get you back on. So thanks again.
Awesome. Joe, thanks a lot.
Thanks everyone for listening to today's episode. For more from Fitt Insider, visit insider.fit.co and subscribe to our weekly newsletter for insights and analysis on the business of fitness and wellness. Then go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. See you next time.